watching a movie.
Very fun date.
We gotta enjoy these moments
Do. Baby Briella be here soon.
very soon.
And then she'll be coming with us.
To the movies?
Yeah.
We're gonna be like, shh, Briella, be
She's gonna
quiet.
be quiet, like perfect baby.
Okay, so jumping into the topic, leading up to the altar.
Leading up to the altar. This is a big topic.
It's a huge topic.
I feel like there's three major parts. You have the dating era.
Era.
Yeah, era. Dating era, then you have the engagement,
Uh-huh.
then marriage.
Yeah.
There's so much in this topic, so much to cover. It's such an important topic.
So what do you feel like, let's just jump into it. What do you feel like was one of the challenges that you faced in like leading up to the altar?
One of the It has to be finances. Most likely finances. That was the most difficult part for me, I guess. Just
Mhm.
because I want to make sure that we were good. I want to make sure that I can say yes to you.
Mhm.
I want to make sure that we will be stable. I wanted a consistent flow of income.
Right.
And so that was my biggest burden in that time. And I'm so glad that in that time where I wanted to get engaged, my job had an opportunity for me to move up a promotion because I was making $10 an hour and that just wasn't going to cut it.
Right.
On top of that, I did get laid off.
I forgot about that.
During COVID, we got married during COVID. I got laid off and then they hired me back
Yeah.
as just washing cars.
Uh-huh.
And then a detail spot opened and I worked my butt off to get it. And like when I got that was boom. Like, yeah, she finna be my wife.
So you'd say like confirmation, like, cause you said you prayed.
Yeah, there was not. I didn't just need a stable job, but there was also money that that we needed like a little bit more in our savings. You knew as they don't know, but we saved together while we were dating. We saved together. We bought a safe from Walmart. We were so sure about each other that we invested
Before
in
we
ourselves.
got engaged.
Before we got engaged, we invested in ourselves.
Yeah.
And there was money that still need to be saved. And, I took time to pray and I was just like, Lord, like, I need this. And, if it is in your will, like, let it happen.
Right.
And supernatural money showed up, and that was just amazing. And it's crazy how God can do things on our behalf just with the prayer.
Right.
And
it was instantly too.
Yeah, it was yeah, like what was it, like a couple days later?
Couple days.
Yeah, a couple days later, and it wasn't just confirmation for our marriage to know that I was one with the Lord in that time, but also like it was a heartfelt moment with just me and the Lord, knowing that He heard my prayer and He answered. Like the song, I sought the Lord. And He heard. Like real life that can happen, and
Right.
probably the first time that happened to me. So that was amazing. But I think for like number one, it was definitely finances. Yeah. And then like it was like the term of killing two birds with one stone because I got the confirmation and the finances.
Yeah.
Like boom.
So like a lot of people don't know. Well, I feel like we've told quite a few people, but for the people that don't know, we started dating, got engaged, and married all in the same year.
In the same year.
And a lot of people thought we were crazy.
Crazy as heck.
Crazy. Because they thought like, okay, like they're just thinking like it's all gonna be fairy tales and rainbows. But I feel like during our dating stage, like we did
severe
prayer.
Severe prayers.
We did fasting.
Yeah, and like interviewing each other.
Yeah, we did. We literally were so intentional in that. What we dated for 5 months?
Yeah.
Before we got engaged. So in those 5 months of dating, we were like actually being super intentional with like asking those hard questions and all of those things. Like we were already saving with each other
Yeah.
5 months into dating,
Mm-hmm.
saving money. Like you said, we bought a safe,
Mm-hmm.
and we were putting money in this safe.
Right.
And it's like so many people thought we were crazy,
Yeah.
but I feel like I had no worries.
Yeah. I had no worries. I knew it was you 100%. And so that was just when you know, like they say. And
Yeah.
so you go head first into building, building a family, building a life with you. But my question for you is not what was your most difficult challenge leading up to engagement,
Mm-hmm.
but what was your most difficult challenge within the engagement? Was it certain things that you felt needed to be buttoned up to between us, or was it the challenge of the time that was there that we had with dating 5 months, engaged 3 months? Like, what was your challenges in those moments?
So I feel like I didn't have really much any challenge,
Mm-hmm.
um, because like we previously spoke, like you showed me that I am able to submit to you. You showed
Mm-hmm.
me that you are able to be a leader and all those
Mm-hmm.
things before we got married.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like my biggest challenge, I feel like, was a time frame, because after 5 months of dating, we got engaged and we were only engaged for 3 months.
Right.
So in those 3 months, we wanted to throw a wedding, we wanted to buy a house, and
That's a lot.
we even though we were saving those 5 months of dating,
Yeah.
and like you said, like the supernatural money, like all those the things were there, but a week before our wedding, um, the house process didn't go through.
Right.
Like we had to figure out, like, I mean, at least for me, it was like, okay, where are we gonna stay, like what are we gonna do, because it was something that we desired so much, this
Right.
picture perfect, like get married
Mm-hmm.
and then buy a house and like go straight into it like that,
Right.
and having that pressure from like not only my family members, my brother that did it,
Yeah.
but also like people, I don't want people to think I'm crazy, like I'm doing this the right way, you know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Yeah.
So I feel like that was my biggest challenge,
Mm-hmm.
was getting that call and hearing like, no, like you're not getting the house
Yeah, that
a
was
week before our wedding.
yeah,
So
that was tough.
I feel like that was my biggest challenge.
Mm-hmm.
So like in that process, it was like, dang, like this is the biggest challenge up to date that we faced.
Yeah.
You agree?
Yeah, that was something huge. Like we had high expectations. We were betting on that. You know, we didn't even look for anything
Oh, we didn't
else.
have a plan B.
We didn't have a plan B. We didn't have a plan B. And that's another thing like that I would say maybe that we had a downfall on is creating a plan B. Like we planned so much,
For plan
so
A.
much. Yeah, for plan A. And I wouldn't even say plan B, but I would just say like allowing the Lord to have space to do what he wants. I think we didn't get that place.
Yeah.
It was intention behind that, you know?
Yeah.
Like in if you think about it now, like we didn't do much homework on what it was to step into
Home
ownership.
ownership. Yeah.
Yeah. And so maybe it was the Lord protecting us
Yeah.
from that very thing.
Yeah.
Um,
Because he told me, don't settle.
right, right.
Don't settle. And we were going to settle for a 2 bedroom, 1 bathroom, little townhome,
Yeah.
very little old
Hmm.
townhome. And I was going to settle
Yeah.
for that.
Yeah, that was something big, man. It but I'm glad like
It happened.
it happened. I'm glad that we were able to experience what we did in our apartment. Like I
Yeah.
loved it. I loved it
Yeah, me
truly.
too.
Yeah.
So I feel like the next question is like, how was, like, what do you think is the biggest part that you need to learn when it comes to like, okay, I'm gonna marry this person, like whether it's like communication or like loving them, how to love them, like something like that. What was the
Mhm.
biggest part aside from like the finances, because you
Yeah.
said that was your biggest
Hmm.
like worry,
So
aside from,
like during engagement,
yeah.
in the season of engagement, I think I believe that the most important thing for me to really grasp was like how to love you.
Mhm.
you know. And I think our premarital counseling
Yeah.
taught us a lot more than just that. But in that time, I think what I could take most from our premarital counseling is we learned how to love each other and what it truly meant.
Yeah.
And I think I can compare it to how in the Bible it says, like, if you don't follow the Lord's commandments, then you truly don't love him.
Yeah.
Why? Because you're not loving him how he desires to be loved.
Right.
You're not doing the things that he is
That's
asking
good.
of you.
Yeah.
So it's like sometimes we think we love God
Mhm.
and we don't. Why? Because it's not what he's asking for.
Yeah.
So could it be that I think I'm loving you
But you're
and
loving me how you want to be loved.
exactly,
Mhm.
and I'm not truly loving you, and quite frankly, you don't feel love.
Right.
And so I think one the most important thing that I took from our premarital counseling is we figured out how to love each other,
Yeah.
and
So
it was a test of time.
yeah, we took the love language quiz.
Yeah, we did.
And we took it what, like a few months ago,
Yeah,
and it
not
was
too long
completely
ago.
different
Completely different.
than
Yeah.
than when we first got
Mm.
engaged. But the love language quiz, we can link it so you guys can take it. But it basically it's five of them, and it's words of affirmation, physical touch,
Mm-hmm.
quality time.
Mm-hmm.
What was the
And there
other
was
two?
another one where it's like you give.
Oh, gifts, gift giving, and physical touch.
Yes,
Did I say
gift
that
giving.
twice?
It's gift giving. That was the missing one.
And then the last one, physical touch.
Yeah, you said that.
Okay. Well, there's five. So the way Sean likes to be loved is physical touch,
Mm.
and the way I like to be loved is
Was it words of affirmation?
no.
No,
It
I
was
always get it wrong.
I think that one was second. It
Okay.
was acts of service.
Acts of service.
No. Acts. It was quality time,
We both don't know.
quality time, and acts of service.
Okay.
And so like for him, even you were saying we were just talking about this. Even though physical touch is your first love language, you would love to like give me gifts and stuff.
Yes, yeah, yeah. I would love to.
Like buy me gifts, buy me
Yeah.
Coach
Mm-hmm.
purses, shoes, all these things, but that's not what like filled up my love tank.
Yeah.
It was quality time, like just no phones, just me and you,
Yeah.
stuff like that. So like,
That was hard for me.
yeah.
Very hard.
Yeah, and physical touch was like my number 3,
Yeah.
and it was your number 1. So
Yeah.
it's like, okay, how do we gauge going from a 3 to 1? Like learn how do I learn how to love you in a language that's not my 1?
Right. That's true.
You
Yeah.
get what I'm saying?
I think that's the true challenge
Uh-huh.
because you're rewiring at that point. We tend to give what we want. So
Uh-huh.
it's like, all right, I'm going to give because this is going to make her happy. In reality,
Yeah.
it doesn't. And I believe for me, like I was buying you like purses and getting you all these things. And like, maybe this will like
Don't
make
get me
her
wrong, I
feel
liked
loved.
it.
You liked it, but you like, for me, you liked it, of course, but that's what you were getting to fill up your love tank.
Right.
And it wasn't working.
Yeah.
Like, and I think what is so important, and it falls in line with communication,
I
which
was
is
just gonna say that.
yeah, like this, and I'll let you speak on that. It was just the second most important thing for me that I took from that was communicating, and I believe that's something that we learn every day.
Yeah. It was definitely tough because we're from different cultures.
Yes.
That's one.
Uh-huh.
So like communication was a huge thing. I communicate and I talk like this. Oh, I talk like this with my hands.
Right.
And for me, it's not disrespectful, but for you,
It was just like the hand motions,
it's
like in
like,
a
okay,
heated moment.
you
It's
need
like,
to relax.
yeah.
That's what it was. Like, I'm like over here talking with my hands. But I feel like communication was huge.
Yeah.
Learning that in premarital counseling and like we have these words that we understand that are not trigger words.
Yeah.
So
That we
like
learn to use
that
for
we
each
learn to
other.
use.
Yeah.
Like, okay, are you done talking?
Yeah.
Are
Like,
you?
is it okay that I speak now? Like,
Yeah. But we established beforehand that we know. Obviously, we gotta judge our tone
right.
and all of that. But like understanding, like, okay, when I say this, it's not in a
Mm-hmm.
disrespectful way, but I want to let you finish your sentence
Right.
before I go into it. Another one is like what, like
I feel the second one we had to make sure we stayed within our
Uh-huh.
boundaries was we would say like, I feel like you're raising your
Uh-huh.
voice or you're getting a bit too excited.
And it's actually really annoying.
It is, but
Really
it
annoying.
helps.
It
It
helps,
helps.
but it's really annoying when you're like in the heat of the moment
Yeah,
and we know that they're not trigger words. Like we know they're not like meant to like
we're not using it as ammo, but we're
exactly.
using it
But it's
to
still really annoying.
yeah, yeah.
In the moment, like I'm heated right now and you're telling me like, "Are you done talking?" Like, "Yeah, go talk." Like,
Yeah,
"Talk. Go
yeah.
ahead."
And I think that helps, for me, it at least helped control how hype I
De-escalate.
get.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
like it's not that important. Like we love each other.
Yeah.
It's
We're
not
one team. We're not
yeah,
against each other.
so it's not, we don't need to be this high. Like
Mhm.
let's bring it down here and don't
Mhm.
get offended. But can I speak now? Because I respect you. I want to make sure you're done.
Yeah.
I don't want to speak out of turn.
But again, we established
That is not disrespect
that
for
we're
us. That's a us thing.
exactly that's
It may not be for everybody, but it's
right.
definitely a us thing, and that's how we communicate.
Uh-huh.
And for us, it's respect. For
Exactly.
us, we're keeping
Each other
each other. There you
accountable.
go. Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah. E-
I love even though you have to catch yourself because it's like, are you done talking?
Yeah.
So it's I like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah, like when we first got married,
Uh-huh.
because I feel like that's when we mostly started arguing. We weren't arguing while we were like engaged.
Yeah. All right.
So we
When
were
we moved in with each other.
yeah, moved in with each other and it was just always the dumbest stuff. Um but like now, like people look at us and we say like we don't argue and people
Yeah.
look at us like we're crazy.
Yeah.
But it's because we established those boundaries.
Yeah.
Like we're not cursing at each other. We have those words that we use
Yeah.
and stuff like that before we were even married, before the altar.
Yeah.
And we decided like this is how we're going to communicate.
Right.
Obviously, when you move in with somebody, there's also new things and new stuff like that. And like you said, when we talked, like I know your triggers. Like I know what buttons to push
Right.
to get you like up there and vice
Uh-huh.
versa.
Right.
So like when people hear like, okay, we don't argue, like I don't remember the last time we argued,
Yeah.
is people are like, no, you're crazy. Like you're trying to be like this picture perfect, but it's not. It's because we learn
How to communicate.
how to communicate.
Yeah. And I believe it was a video that showed us that we
Mm-hmm.
felt was so cringe in the
So
time.
cringe.
But like it was a video of this couple, like I believe he was doing homework and he promised her to go out on a date and like she was heated. It was what our premarital counselors gave us. Shout out to Pastor Israel and Pastor Jasenia. They
Yeah.
are great men and women of God.
Yeah.
They definitely poured what they had into our lives
Yeah.
and we appreciate and use it almost every day. But yeah, it was something that just showed us you can go this way or that way. And it was more effective to have a clear communication, controlling your frustration and how you felt, and just making it clear, using certain words, how to speak and how to
So I
communicate
have
your
a
feelings.
question that this ties into like 2 and 1.
Uh-huh.
So like 2 and 1 because a few things that we have to do before the altar is make our past trauma known
Okay.
and clear it,
Uh-huh.
right? And then effectively communicate that.
Okay.
So like I want to talk about a challenge we faced that I feel like we could have prevented before the altar.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So like when in those beginning stages of marriage when we started arguing
Uh-huh.
and you would leave,
Yeah.
that was a trigger for me.
Okay.
So even though I didn't have like family leave me or like my dad never left me or stuff
Yeah.
like that, that was always a trigger for me. Like, okay, where are you going? What are you doing? Like, it was like something that was triggering. You get what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
like, how is that something you can avoid? Because I feel like we could have avoided it
Yeah.
because I don't feel like it was talked enough
Yeah.
about.
Yeah. Yeah. It wasn't.
So we couldn't avoid it because it wasn't talked about. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like, how do you feel like you could avoid situations like that, like past trauma, like communicating about those traumas and stuff like that? Like, do you get where I'm coming from?
Trauma. When you say past trauma.
Um, or like triggers,
Triggers.
things that like trigger you, like
Uh-huh. Okay, so for me, okay, I believe what made me in those moments like want to leave was, I believe it was the raising of the voice.
Okay.
I
And
grew up in a household where
right.
there was a lot of screaming.
Uh-huh.
And so for me, I will always say, like, I didn't get married for you to raise my voice. If I wanted to hear that, I would go back to my mom's house.
Right.
Even though when I left, I was going to my mom's house.
Right.
But so that was the trigger for me, was the raising of the voice.
Uh-huh.
And so it's like, listen, like, I know that what I'm doing isn't a good trait. I should have
Mhm.
communicated the trigger.
Right.
Like, hey, you're raising your
And vice
voice.
versa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, you're raising your voice. And my first instinct is to just exit.
Mhm.
And so, hey, like, and this is when we're learning to communicate,
Right.
So it's like, I believe that we could have spoken that moment, like, listen, honey, I hear you. You want me to wash the dishes.
Mhm.
I hear you. You want me to clean the bathroom or pick up after myself more.
Right.
But I need you to calm down when you're communicating those things to me, because,
And making sure that's not a trigger word for
yeah,
your partner.
exactly.
Calm
I
down.
need you to find a better way to communicate your desires to me, because I am going to leave if you keep raising your voice.
Yeah.
And that's not a good thing.
But I feel like those triggers need to be communicated beforehand.
Yes, they do.
So like that, when we were in premarital counseling, those are things that we had to, like, those tough conversations, like,
Yes.
okay, what are you gonna do? Like, are you gonna leave, or like the Bible verse, don't go to sleep angry.
Yeah, yeah.
You get what I'm saying? Or till the sun comes up, whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, in the moment, you're not thinking about this Bible verse, you
Right.
get what I'm saying? So it's like, those need to be nipped in the bud.
Yeah, communication has to be there.
Communicate, like, okay, is there anything that triggers you? I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes you're not even gonna know until you're like,
And yeah, until it births itself, like,
yeah,
boom,
like, where did
whoa,
this
like,
come from?
you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
you should have never did that.
Yeah, but I feel like overall people know in some instances what triggers them and what doesn't, like
Yeah.
past trauma and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um, so it can be surfaced. So I feel like that's definitely.
Yeah, like the do's and don'ts
Mhm.
is important to communicate.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's important. I believe something for me that was a challenge, a big challenge for me in our engagement, was the whole issue with, like, if you had a flat tire, you would call your father
That's a good one.
and not call me. And I feel like that was a battle for me. Or, like, if there was a need that I could do, you would call your father.
Yeah.
And when we brung that and spoke about that in premarital counseling, it's like, I feel as the man that I am giving
Yeah.
all that I could give to fill the role of a husband, of course,
A
without,
provider.
yeah, like,
Yeah.
without sexual, we're not there yet, but
Right.
like, at the time in the engagement, within the lines that I could, I was giving what I could give to make you feel as if I was as
Somebody you can go to.
exactly
Yeah,
like
yeah.
husband material.
Right.
You could depend on me. And so when I brought up the fact that felt like I was lacking that from you, like, okay, I'm giving her this husband
Mhm.
material, but she's not using it when the time need be.
Right.
And the fact that I think this is so important is what they said was that she's still under her father.
Yeah.
And I was just like, wow, like,
You didn't like it at first.
No, I didn't. I was like, what the heck, man? Like, no, like, you feel
Mhm.
me? She's my girlfriend.
Yeah.
And why do I have to give these qualities, but she's not fully? And so we think it's just sex that is withholded in this time, but it's also the fact that you're still under your father.
Right.
And so it's like certain things you are still going to reach out to him for,
Right.
rather than to me first.
Right.
And I have to be okay with that,
Mhm.
and that's just the way it is. Not saying that if your tire goes flat, like, you have to call your father, but it varies on the female, I believe, because you know what you can depend on your father for,
Right.
and what you feel most comfortable to lean on him and call on him for, rather than speaking me. speaking with me and asking me, but
And I think for you, it was hard to see, like, okay, when is that transition gonna happen?
exactly.
Is
Yeah.
is she just gonna snap into it like when we get married,
Uh huh.
or is this just gonna be an ongoing thing? Like,
Yeah.
you get what I'm saying?
Uh huh.
But yeah, I feel like, yeah, you didn't like when they
I
told you.
didn't. That ticked me off, and I just had to know that it was gonna be a change.
Yeah.
I had to know that it was gonna be a transition when we got married. But it's little things like that that occupy your mind,
Mhm.
that you have to just trust the process
Yeah.
and allow the oven to fully bake what's
Mhm.
happening in that moment.
Yeah.
And when you step
Because you
into
can't give it all
exactly
before you're
because
married.
like yeah, you can't, and
Mhm.
that's the most
So
important thing.
since we're talking about my dad,
Uh
how do you feel like? Do you feel like it's important, like, to have a good relationship with in-laws,
huh.
or do you think like, no, like, this is my new family, if they don't like it, like, how do you feel about that
Yeah,
aspect?
that's a very for me that was a very important thing. Like it was like a non-negotiable.
Mhm.
Like for me, as you know, like you had my mom had to like you. Y'all had to get along, and if it didn't work, we was done.
Yeah.
Like cut off cold turkey. Like
Mhm.
we not playing them games.
Yeah.
At this point, I'm looking for a wife,
Right.
and I wasn't even there yet. Like I met you, and then I learned like, okay, I need to make sure that I'm looking for a wife. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? And so I knew that was one of the qualities. So once you got my mindset there, which I'm so thankful for, because when we were speaking about marriage, I was just like,
Mhm.
eh, you know. But going back to your question, it's just my mindset was my mom was the number one person for me in my life at the
Right.
time,
Mhm.
and so that was never gonna change. Like when I say never gonna change, meaning she will always be important.
Right.
She will
She's an,
always be
yeah,
important in my
she's your
life.
mom.
She's my mother, and
Mhm.
so there, you guys had to get along.
Right.
It's important because when we marry, like it's not just me, but I'm also marrying into relationships. Like
Mhm.
your brother, your mother, your father, like
Mhm.
those are real roles, and it may not be much as intense, but the respect and the love is in the same manner.
Yeah.
So therefore, we need to get along, you know.
Right.
So I believe it's very important because, like I said, those are relationships. Those are people. Memories are going to be created. Like
Mhm.
we're having a child now. Imagine if we didn't get along with each other's parents. What would that be?
Yeah.
You know what I
So
mean? And
you think it is important?
100%, 110%.
I feel like if a lot of people, and it happens a lot nowadays,
Uh huh.
I see it a lot where, like, the families don't get along. And I feel like that just creates such a toxic relationship,
Yeah.
not only like with your in laws, but in your relationship, because now it's like, okay, you're gonna choose them or you're gonna choose me?
Yeah, yeah.
Are you gonna
Like your mom again.
are you gonna choose your mom or are you gonna choose me?
Yeah.
But if you were to have that like healthy relationship,
Uh huh.
it's like, okay, your mom understands that, like, I'm your new family.
Right.
Like, now they are extended family.
Yes.
And it's easier for you to choose me and not have to put you in the middle of, like, choose
Right.
your mom or choose me.
And it's yeah, like to understand the order.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe we were blessed in that space
Yeah.
because both of our families,
Get along.
yeah, not only that, but they believe in Jesus.
Right,
And
right.
so they understand what it is. And you weren't the first married. It was actually your brother.
Yeah.
So like thank God on your end that it was something that was understood, and I just feel like
Yeah.
the Lord was all over everything we were doing.
Yeah.
And so I'm just glad like everything worked out, but not to say that people don't face challenges, not
Yeah.
only because they're
I mean,
family.
even though our families get along,
Uh-huh.
I get along with your family, you get along with my family, there is still challenges that
Yes.
come, like,
Uh-huh.
um with situations that arise. So it's not
Right.
gonna always be picture perfect just because our families get along or we
Yeah,
get along
a
with our
hundred
families.
percent. Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a maturity level that has to be within a person to
Mhm.
understand like I may not agree
Mhm.
or I may not like this trait or characteristic of this person, but because of who they are connected to which is my wife, there's a level of respect that has to be given,
Right.
like or dislike. You
Right.
get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So no matter what, I have to respect,
Right.
and I believe that that can flow into situations where maybe the significant other doesn't see eye to eye with the mother in law or is not too friend with them,
Yeah.
and it's like, how do you face that? I've never been through that. But I
Yeah.
believe my advice that I could give is to simply be respectful.
Mhm.
You know,
Absolutely.
watch your face, facial expressions, watch what you say. I honor you because I honor my wife. You
Right.
get what I'm saying? I respect you because I respect my wife. You know what I mean? And so for me, that was just my guidelines. Like if you didn't get along with my mother, then it wasn't gonna happen. But
Yeah.
that doesn't mean that that's the law. You get what I'm saying? So
So jumping into what do you think like what people thought or what family member thought affected the way you thought? Does that make sense?
in a s-
In that engagement or pre-engagement era when you were like, "Hey, I think I want to marry her," or like, do you feel like that affected like your thought process or anything?
it definitely didn't affect my decision, but it did weigh on me. Like
Uh huh.
in a positive manner, like not that they not like my family was rooting for me, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? And I believe with my mother, like there was a time where, I was her youngest kid, I was her baby boy, I was a mama's boy, so
Mhm.
she was just reassuring me, letting me know, like, listen, you don't have to do this
Yeah.
if you don't want to.
Right.
Like there's no one's forcing you to do this, just making sure that I am aware of the decision that I'm about to step into,
Mhm.
not really trying to talk me out, but you know,
Mhm.
doing playing a part of a mother.
Right.
And so I believe like her re asking me, um, weighed on me to like make sure that I was sure about what I was stepping into,
Right.
because when I was with my mom, I didn't have to like when I got laid off, she was like, listen, like, don't worry about anything. I'm gonna pay for your bills, like your phone bill, your car insurance. Like, it was not super expensive, but she was someone that I could lean on, depend
Right.
on, So I was definitely leaving a comfortable state
Right.
to go into something fully independent,
Yeah.
So that was the weighing on me, okay, now you're going to become an adult.
Mhm.
Those are the things that I'm thinking about. Now you're going to become adult. You're fully responsible for you and the life of somebody else.
Somebody else. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're gonna get your own set of bills.
Right.
And oh, the phone line that you have with mommy, like it's time to grow up. That has to go. You
Right.
know what I mean? So like, I think the most influence that I got from anybody in that time of engagement, like challenging me, was my mother, and it wasn't in a negative way,
Yeah.
but it was in a way that really rounded me to fully understand,
And be sure
yeah, and
on
what
your
I'm about to
decision.
step into.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
and I
feel
just
like for
appreciated that.
me, again, different cultures.
Different culture.
So we're Puerto Rican. I'm Puerto Rican.
Yeah, I'm
So
half
for
Puerto Rican.
whatever. So for me, my family took a different approach. My family was like, you don't even know. They love Sean.
Yeah, they
They
love you.
love
Yeah.
Sean. But like they're like, you don't even know Sean. Like
Hmm.
you barely know how to wipe your butt. Like all
Yeah.
these things, and it's like, mom, like I'm not sitting here just like fiddling my thumbs. Like I'm we're asking intentional questions, but they don't see that. So
Right.
they're
Right.
like you don't even know Sean, you don't know like anything like that,
Yeah.
and you want to get married,
Yeah.
and it's like, yeah. So then whatever, you ask for my mom's hand.
I asked for your hand. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
you
asked your
asked for
mom.
my
Yeah.
hand in marriage, and all of that, and it's like, okay, I got through that obstacle of like trying to convince them like I'm not doing this just for fun and giggles, you
Right.
know. So once that obstacle was like cleared, then it was like, okay, mom, like I'm engaged, and then now it's like we chose a date for the wedding, and it was like, okay, when's the wedding? I said November. She's like, perfect. We have a year to plan.
Yeah.
I said, no, mom, this November. and her first question is like, "Are you pregnant?" So it's
Fornication.
like, bro, like, what do you mean? No. So because like I told you, oh, I don't think I said it. Like I from the beginning I knew like I was gonna get married this year.
Yeah, yeah.
So like I didn't plan on a year-long engagement or anything like that. Like I knew I was gonna get married. So like my family's like, are you sure? Like what's going on? Like
Yeah.
is there a problem? Like is there anything like that? More so worried because first of all I'm a female.
Yeah.
So that's completely different than a guy.
Then the guy.
So yeah, they just obviously they got along,
Yeah.
got on board, and were very supportive after the fact.
I passed the interrogation.
Yeah, very. They were very supportive.
No, yeah, 100%.
The whole engagement and all of that. It was
Yeah.
just more getting on board on like how quick everything was going,
Right, right.
how
Yeah.
fast everything was going. Because in Spanish culture, I mean, even with like my brother was engaged for like I don't know, like a year and a half or something like that.
Uh-huh.
And like for me to be engaged only 3 months
Was a challenge.
was a challenge for them. So
Right.
like obviously
Respectfully.
yeah, yeah, they got on board and they were super supportive, which was good, but it was just definitely like grinding some gears, I
No,
say.
yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
I'm just like that whole. I enjoyed every part of that season. It
absolutely.
was amazing.
I agree.
Very much amazing. I would say, did you face any challenges adjusting when we moved in together in regards to like I know for me I had
Like
my
I
own.
wish I would have known this before.
Yeah, you could like we could step into
Like
that
living
too.
like living with a person, I wish I would have
Living with
known.
the person and also like in the sense of responsibilities. Like when I
Okay.
stayed with my mom, I had to do my own chores. You know what I mean? But I
Yeah.
feel like with marriage, it's like is this
You're an
what's the
adult.
word? What's the word? Stereotype of the man works and pays the bills, and the woman cleans everything,
Yeah.
and that is so unrealistic
Yes.
to the max.
Yes.
And
But I went into it with that mentality.
uh-huh. And that's why I'm saying what was your challenges going into that as a female because you still worked a full-time job.
Full-time job.
Right.
So I feel like that also goes with communication on some conversations that you need to have beforehand.
Right.
Um, because living with a person isn't easy. You go from taking care of just yourself, just your own things. You know how you like things. You know how you are. To now, okay, inviting somebody else into your bubble,
Right.
learning how they do things, how they live, how they all these things, and it's a challenge. It's a
Right.
challenge. But like for me, I went into it thinking, okay, I'm going to cook, I'm going to clean, I'm going to do all the like housewife things,
Uh,
but I also had a full-time job.
right.
Like full-time job, 50
Mm-hmm.
hours a week.
Right.
Full-time job. And I did it. I did it for about what like 2 3
Two,
months.
3 months.
And I got to a point where I was like, babe, like I cannot
Do this.
do this. I was washing the dishes, because I wanted to,
Yeah.
because I wanted to fulfill that role of a wife
Mm.
and feel like I was fulfilling something. You know what I'm saying? But I was working a 50-hour a week job, full
Uh-huh.
time job, doing all of the dishes,
Mm-hmm.
doing all of the cooking,
Yeah.
doing all of the laundry,
Yeah.
doing all of the cleaning. And it got to a point where I'm like, I'm burnt out. Like
Yeah.
I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
Um,
And no one speaks about these challenges.
no.
No one. Like nobody talks about how people I would say there's plenty of women that do that and they get so tired.
But they suck it up.
Yeah, and they suck it up, but it may not be healthy to
It's
do that.
exactly.
You know what I
It's
mean?
yeah.
It's not healthy, and that's why I believe we see on social media like the pictures of women and she's holding a laptop, and you see her holding like an apron and all this stuff, and then
Mhm.
a romantic time with her husband. Like there's so much that's expected from a female,
Mhm.
and it's been a culture where it's just like do it, like
And we put that pressure on ourselves. It's not
yes,
like you were like, no, you need to cook and
no,
clean for
yeah,
me, and
yeah.
all these things. But the same way you put the pressure on yourself, like I want,
Finances, yeah.
like there was a point where Sean was like, I want to pay for everything.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
I'm paying for the whole rent. I'm paying for the
Yeah.
light, the water, the
Yeah.
everything. And it's just like unrealistic.
Yeah, it's
And I
unrealistic.
feel like because society says this is what you have to do, if you don't do it, then your marriage is failing, or
Yeah.
you don't know how to be a husband, or you don't know how to be a wife. But it takes like you having to put your pride to the side and understanding like it's not realistic.
Yeah.
I can't do it all.
Yeah.
I'm not your mom. Like
Yeah.
I can't. I need your help.
Yeah.
And we're in this life together. We're doing this as a team.
Right.
And putting all that responsibility on me is just
Not it.
not it.
It's not realistic. And I also would say, like, for men, like, when you see your significant other going through these things, and it's also Christ-like to communicate. It's also Christ-like to understand that this is God's daughter, this is his child, and now it's not her father who's concerned about how you're treating her and how you're communicating with her. It's not about your demeanor or your tone of voice, but now the Lord is looking at in your house, you know, how are you going to respond to her frustration? And are you going to just tell her, "Oh well, keep doing it," or are you going to come up with a plan
Yeah.
to figure out how to solve it? And this is what we mean by Jesus in every 60 seconds.
Yeah.
These are the things that people don't talk about.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you're frustrated with chores. It's a real burden.
Yeah.
Like, people may just see it like, "Oh my gosh, sweep the floor, girl. Oh my gosh, wash the dishes." And go, no, this is real. Like, it's a real
And people
thing.
really take on that burden,
Yeah.
and like no matter what, they're gonna do it. You get what I'm saying? But again, it's not something, I think it's something that can be talked about before and try to set up a plan. But if you've never lived with somebody,
Yeah.
I feel like it's hard to pinpoint where to,
Yeah.
you get what I'm saying, to
Yeah.
go with that. So like we decided, okay, this is not working.
Yeah.
This is not working, so what are we gonna do?
Yeah.
So we decided, okay, you're gonna clean the bathrooms, I'll clean the kitchen. You
Yeah.
clean
I
the
like I
room.
remember you coming to me saying, like, "I can't do this."
Yeah.
And we literally walked around the apartment. I was
Uh-huh.
like, "Babe, all right, do you feel like you could clean this bathroom?
Right.
What don't you like about this
Uh-huh.
bathroom?" Like, we went in the bathroom,
And
we
it,
talked
they
it
don't
out.
always stay the same.
Yeah, they don't.
Like
They don't.
the other day I was like, babe, like my belly's getting too big and I can't reach into the washing machine. So we
Yeah.
need to switch
Yeah,
chores.
yeah.
So like even now we're still changing them. Like, okay, no, you're gonna wash it, or you're gonna wash the
Yeah.
clothes, I'll wash the dishes again.
Yeah.
And we change out the chores, and that way it doesn't stay like annoying.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? But like, okay, like I can't give my 100 in this right now, so I need your help.
Yeah.
But I feel like that goes more into like when you start living with somebody, you'll be able to see more so
What it's like.
what it's like,
and
what
we
are the
need.
challenges,
Yeah.
how it's gonna work for you.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
And I think I think that's one of my favorite moments in our marriage is when you told me that you couldn't do it, and we walked around, like, we looked at the bathroom, like, "Do you feel like you could clean this
Mhm.
every weekend?" "No, I don't like it." "Okay, I'll do it. Like,
Mhm.
I'll try to do it now."
Right.
You know, like, "Let's go to the laundry. Look at this laundry.
Mhm.
What do you think of when you see laundry? How do you feel about it? How does it make you feel?
Mhm.
Do you feel like you could do this?" "Yes." "Okay, let's stay with that. Now, dishes, like, okay, we're gonna work together on this." Like,
Right.
I think that stapled that set the tone for the rest of our life in our marriage.
Yeah.
It's like, this is gonna always change.
Right.
Like, dishes aren't always gonna be yours. Laundry isn't always gonna be mine. When I'm tired of laundry, hello, switch spots. You
Mhm.
know what I mean?
So how do you feel? This is another conversation that I feel like needs to be had
Yeah.
when your partner is not always going to be able to give 100.
Yeah.
You know, because it's not
in every area.
it's not 50-50.
Right.
It's 100-100.
Yeah.
Right.
Uh-huh.
So how do you feel like in that? Like what does that communication look like, or like what are the expectations when your partner can't give you that
100.
100%. Like, do you
Yeah.
get what I'm saying? Like,
I think it's okay. So if we're 100, you're giving 70. That doesn't mean that I tone down.
right,
I think I have to continue to give my 100,
right,
and where you lacking, I pick up on,
uh huh,
and then we have a conversation like, "Hey, honey, not like okay. For instance, like if there's stuff that needs to be picked up, and you know this is what you do,
mm-hmm,
like, and I'm picking up behind you, I'm giving my 100. But at the end of the day, we're gonna sit like, hey, honey, I know that maybe today was a hard day for you, and I
right,
picked this up for you, but I noticed that this you're lacking in this area. Is everything okay? Like, what's going on?
mm-hmm,
And that's the communication that has to be had, not an argument.
right,
Not pick up your stuff.
right.
Like,
But I feel like, I don't know if it's just me, but like, I feel like I love you so much
uh,
that little things like that don't bother me.
yeah, they bother me sometimes.
No, like, I feel like, yes, but it's not like the end of the world, is what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
yeah, yeah,
So, like, if, I don't know, an example, you leave the toilet seat up, I don't know, it's not gonna be like, oh my gosh, you
yeah,
left the toilet seat up. It's not gonna be something huge that we
yeah.
take out of proportion. You
Uh
get what
huh.
I'm saying? Like, I love you so much that those little things that, okay, like, even though I've told you 10,000 million times
Yeah,
to put the toilet seat down,
yeah,
it's like, whatever, like, I'll just continue to do it. You get what I'm saying?
yeah.
So,
Yeah, no, man. I think that's good, and it makes me think like, when they ask Jesus like, what is the most important commandment to keep, is to like love,
mm-hmm,
and then treat your neighbor as if you wanted to be treated.
right.
And so I feel like with before the altar,
Mm-hmm,
the commandments to keep are like know how to love,
mm-hmm,
and then effective communication.
yeah,
In communication, there is comprehension in that.
right.
And so like I believe you can overcome all of those things, of course, with Christ being the centered in your marriage.
Yeah.
And this is what it looks like, a Christ-centered marriage. These are branches off of, you know,
Mm-hmm,
the what you see in a Christ-centered marriage
right.
is different from what we see in the world.
Yeah.
Like there should be no such thing as burnout
Yeah.
when you're both supposed to give 100. You know
Right.
what I mean? When you
Yeah.
when you're
When you give
loving,
100% of your love towards me, I don't gotta worry about myself because
yeah,
you're 100% taking care of me and vice versa.
exactly.
Yeah.
Like I'm never giving. Yeah, so we don't create 100 with the both of us. No, like we're both already giving 100, and so I
And I
love
feel like
that the
that
most.
takes a lot. Like, we need the Lord.
Yeah, you need the Lord.
You
Like,
need the Lord in order to give like 100% because it's not easy.
yeah, because if you notice yourself, like, well, she didn't wash the dishes, so I ain't doing it, or
Yeah.
she didn't take out meat, so I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
Like,
She could figure out
yeah,
what to
let's
eat.
look back at where's Christ. like
Yeah.
like let's turn back to, because at the end of the day the Lord sees all, and he
Mhm.
sees how you're treating your spouse.
Mhm.
And that's your first ministry.
Right.
And so if you can't take care of that, how do you go out and be nice to your friend?
Right.
You know what I mean? And then that makes me think of how we were speaking, and how one of our challenges was, I felt like my not my standards were too high, but I didn't have enough patience for you
Mhm.
in some areas, and you would see how I would be patient with our friends and people
Mhm.
outside of our home, but when I come in the house, I'm short
Mhm.
tempered, like I'm quick to pop off, or
Mhm.
quick to like, hey, like, oh my gosh, like I feel like but I would say like I feel like you know better, like
Mhm.
you know me, like, and I feel like that was so toxic of me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
But I feel like that goes, and we can jump into this topic, uncommunicated expectations,
yes.
which is another big thing
Uh-huh.
because when me and Sean first started um, dating,
Hmm.
I never wanted to be called beautiful because I just didn't like when I was being catcalled, or like they thought that was they was doing something and it
Yeah.
wasn't.
Yeah.
So like I told Sean, like, I don't need to be called beautiful. I don't need to be called pretty. I don't need to be called like any of these things. Like,
Yeah.
no. And then further down the line in our relationship, it's like, okay, you're you're not calling me pretty, you're not calling me beautiful. So like, but Sean was doing exactly what I told him to do.
Exactly.
Exactly what I was telling him to do.
Muscle up.
Yeah, so it was like I can't expect him to call me beautiful when I told him not to call me beautiful. So it
Right.
goes into the uncommunicated expectations.
Yeah,
And it's like it's toxic.
it is.
It can become toxic really quickly.
Mm.
And like I feel like that's the huge standard now in our like society. Like, no, I'm not gonna tell him to buy me flowers. Like he should know to buy me flowers.
Yeah.
But there's genuinely men that don't know how to be romantic or
Right.
know how to do those gestures or things like that. Or going back to the love language, they don't know how to love you in that love language.
Yeah, yeah.
And stuff like that. So it's like, no, like those need to be communicated. I don't care if it's awkward or like, oh, I just want you to do it without me telling you. Like that just shows your maturity level.
Yeah, it
You
does.
get what I'm
Yeah,
saying? So
yeah.
like now it's like, okay, no, like I told you, I expect flowers. Like, don't buy me flowers if you don't expect to buy me flowers
Yeah,
the rest of your life.
yeah.
Like I told you that. So like that was my expectation towards you.
Yeah.
And then like any other expectation, I communicated to you,
Right.
this is how I feel. Or like when that whole thing is like, I feel like with everybody else you're patient
Yeah.
and with me you're not. Like I can't expect you to treat me like everybody else if I don't communicate that to you, because
Yeah, yeah.
to you probably don't see it that way.
Yeah,
You
and
get what I'm
I
saying?
was in error because I
You
had a
also
standard. Yeah, like I had a standard that was not communicated.
exactly.
Like, but you know me. Like, no, I know you, but you didn't say this or you didn't
Right.
tell me this. Like, you have to communicate. Like, that's so like that, and that's borderline manipulation.
Kinda, yeah.
You know, like, but you know me. Like, you know me better than that.
Right.
Like, no, I don't.
Yeah.
No, I don't. I don't know you any
I
more
can't read
better.
your mind.
Exactly. That's like, come on, dude. Like, and that was so horrible. That was so bad. Like,
Yeah, but we live and we learn. You get
no,
what I'm
yeah,
saying? And yeah, I feel like communicating like, okay, this is what I expect from you.
yeah,
I expect you to know this, this, and this, or I expect, obviously, again, in the tone, like, I'm not gonna be like, I expect dinner to be cooked
yeah,
when I get home.
yeah,
But you know, you have those conversations if about those things that you desire, and obviously not expect them to like just change in the blink of an eye, but giving room for like that growth and
yeah,
stuff like that.
yeah.
So
And this is like totally like off topic, but I believe another challenge that I faced within our marriage was
marriage or pre?
marriage. Like,
Okay,
it was more like
as a topic that they need to talk about before marriage.
it's uh, not
Sorry, I'll
not
let you
really
get
like
to
a
it.
topic, but like I feel like a lot of people will encounter this,
Okay.
and like I believe it was my secret place.
Mhm.
I read my Bible different than you read your Bible.
Mhm.
I pray different than you pray. Like,
Mhm.
we have different methods,
Mhm.
and I believe it was a challenge when we first got together, because it's like, all right, I'm doing mine separate, praying how I want to, doing what I want to separate. You're doing what you want to, praying how you want to separate, which is not bad.
Mhm.
But at some point, coming together as a marriage in prayer, coming together, reading our word together, studying things together, like, I feel like that was a challenge that I faced, that we faced. It was hard, like,
Yeah.
like doing,
Like it took me like an hour to read verse 1 through 5,
yeah,
and you read 3 chapters in that hour.
yeah, like my method was totally different
Yeah.
from yours. So like when we would collab, it was just like,
Yeah.
like, I just do this by
Like
myself.
you're going too fast and you're like,
Yeah,
no, you're taking too long.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that's a challenge that you will face,
Yeah.
but of course everybody deals with it differently. And I think what changed ours definitely was we started like praying together
Yeah.
and like figuring out, okay, this is how we're gonna pray as a team. Like,
Yeah. I feel like it all connects.
yeah,
I feel like it all connects. Like, you'll know how to be more because we have our separate relationship with Christ, right? You have your own relationship with Christ. I have my own relationship with Christ. But at the end of the day, we're one,
Yeah. So
and
we have
we
a
have
relationship.
to have that relationship with Christ
Yeah.
as one. So I
Yeah.
feel like
Building that.
building that comes within marriage, but it's definitely a topic that can be talked about before, because I feel like sexual intimacy plays a part in that.
Yeah.
Spiritual intimacy plays a part
Yeah.
with that. Like if I'm not spiritually intimate with the Lord by myself,
Yeah.
then when we come together, it's just not. You get what I'm
There
saying?
you
So like
go.
I feel
Yeah.
like obviously you have to be married to about the sexual intimacy part,
Yeah.
but I feel like that also plays a role in drawing us together spiritually.
Yes. Yes.
You
Yes.
get what I'm saying?
Yeah. I believe that the marriage, the 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 secret place. I want to use the right words. Not secret place, but the relationship with the Lord within your marriage is based off of your separate
Yes,
relationships,
absolutely.
because you come together and then
Mhm.
you reflect Christ towards
Mhm.
each other. And so, yes, it's like your separate secret places in prayer. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And once you become together, when you come together and you 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 hit situations where it gets tough or where you may be tested, you reflect Jesus in
Right.
those moments,
Mhm.
and you go and pray in those moments, and you live a life of prayer as a married couple,
Yeah.
and I believe that's what thrives and keeps Christ in the center, is because you have your separate relationship. You
Right.
both have your separate relationship. You come together as one and reflect Christ towards each other
Right.
and live a life of prayer.
Yeah.
And so I believe like that's what helped us the
I agree.
most. Yeah,
I agree. Definitely keeping Christ at the center is easier said than done,
it is.
because once you get married, it's like, okay, I got a full-time job.
Yeah.
I got to attend to my house.
Hmm.
I got to attend to my husband.
Yeah.
I got to make time for my now new extended family.
Uh huh.
And it's like, okay, how do I fit God into this whole new
Yeah. And it's like
lifestyle that I'm living?
it's like I believe that's what makes it difficult, because we're looking to fit when he needs to be.
Yeah.
Simply be your life is where it needs to be rooted.
Yeah.
And maybe that's where we had our wrong going in this, is like he was it was like we were looking for time to fit rather than it being based off of our life being based on Christ, everything after.
Right, right.
Yeah, and so like I feel like that's where in marriage, when you first get married, there's a blur, and
Mhm.
that can cause frustration. And because it's something new, you're so in love, and it's like it's a new season in your life. You're always out eating. You're always going on dates. You start gaining weight, and then you got the gym, and then you like you get what I'm saying. Like it could easily get blurry if you don't keep your focus
On
on the
Jesus.
narrow path. Yeah, in Jesus, and so like I think that's very important, man. Like finding Jesus in every moment,
Yeah.
in every second, is just needed.
Yeah. So to recap, we touched on finances.
Hmm.
We touched on effective communication,
Yes.
comprehension.
Uh huh.
We talked about like love language.
Yes.
We talked about premarital counseling.
Yes.
It's important to have like the right people to challenge you.
Yes.
And if they're not challenging you, you challenge them
Yes.
and as to what you want to learn and stuff like
Yeah.
that. What else? Looking for a home,
Hmm.
living with someone,
Yeah. It's so much
so much
before the altar.
before the altar.
You think we need a part two?
Probably.
Yeah, we probably do.
We'll probably do a part two.
I enjoyed this.
I enjoyed this too.
I love you, honey.
Love you.